Good afternoon, everybody. Hello and welcome to Transfer Express's webinar, Screen Printed versus Digital Transfers. My name is Andy Curtis. I am the Senior Manager of Dealer Services, Graphic and Commercial Design here at Transfer Express, and an old friend for those of you who have joined us in the past. If you have not joined us before, then welcome and thank you for spending some time with us today. The webinar today will probably go about 45-ish minutes, depending on the kind of input and questions I get from you guys. If you have questions as we go today, please do type them into the chat box. Everybody has found the chat box. Hello from Texas and Oregon and Atlanta and Las Vegas and Arizona and Ohio and Idaho and Wisconsin and holy moly, all over the place. Well, hello everybody. So if you have questions as we go today, please, oh, Snow, South Dakota, I'm so sorry, Amber. It's nice here in Ohio. If you have questions today, please type them into the chat box. I will do my best to answer the questions that I see. I also have a helper behind the curtain. If I do miss a question, my helper will pop in there and answer the questions for me. There he is, getting lost in the sea of hellos. So please feel free to interact as much as you can, and I'll do my best to interact right back. The webinar is being recorded, so for those of you who inevitably will ask, yes, the webinar is being recorded, and it will be posted on our website after we are done, sometime in the next day or so here. So with the housekeeping stuff out of the way here, the topic today is going to be screen printed versus digital transfers. So this is one of those things that if you're old hat to the industry, then maybe it's good just for a refresher. If you're new to the industry, though, I'm going to cover a whole bunch of good information, especially if you're still new to the whole transfer game and still learning what all the words, all the vocabulary. there's a lot to learn in this industry, right? There's a lot of new words and new phrases you got to learn when you're getting into heat printing and decorating and such. So we're going to go over a whole bunch of good stuff here. So um, if you have any questions along the way, please shout them out, and we will do our best to answer them. So let's go ahead and talk about what the agenda is here. So we're going to cover what is screen print and what is digital. We're going to define what both of them are. And actually, a good visual is right here on the screen. As a matter of fact, you've got the same piece of art done two ways. You've got the one on the left is a full color digital CAD print transfer. And then you've got the one on the right is a goof-proof screen printed transfer. So full color on the left, spot color on the right. We'll go ahead and define what all that stuff means and what all of it is here in the next couple slides. We'll also talk about what type of fabrics each of them applies to. So what you should put on which transfer type you should put on which kind of garment. We'll also talk about why you should choose one over the other, which is the burning question I'm sure everybody has. Why? Why choose one over the other? We'll also talk about some tools to make that choice easier and to help you decide. Of course, there's a whole bunch of different ways for you to figure out which type of transfer to use, and we're going to go over a couple of them here. We do our best at Transfer Express to try to make your life easier. So we realize, of course, it's confusing to have all these different types of transfers. We want to try to make it easy for you to figure out which one to go with. Of course, there's always the old default fallback of calling Transfer Express and talking to the customer service reps and asking them. But for those of you who don't have the time to do that, or maybe you don't feel like calling in, we're going to give you a whole bunch of options in terms of other things you can do to figure out when you should use one over the other. All right, so first off, let's cover what is a screen printed transfer. All right, so screen printed transfers are when we do a traditional screen print process. We are screen printing plastisol ink. And when you hear the term plastisol, for those of you who are all new to the industry, when you hear the term plastisol, plastisol is that magical liquid that every screen printer on the planet uses plastisol. You force the plastisol through the screen, and then you heat the plastisol to a certain temperature, and it hardens, becoming a screen printed T-shirt. So a screen printed transfer is when we do the same thing. We take a screen, we take a bunch of red plastisol ink, as you see here, we take a squeegee, and we force that red plastisol ink through the screen. The difference is instead of a t-shirt underneath that screen, it would be a special piece of paper. We are screen printing onto paper and then adding adhesive to it. So that is what allows you to actually apply that transfer to a garment. So screen printed transfers are this is the thing that I can't stress. If you don't absorb anything else I say on the screen, the most important thing to note is a screen printed transfer is screen printing. There is no difference. The only difference is it's taking a detour onto a piece of paper until you heat press it onto a garment. So a screen printed transfer is the same type of chemicals, the same type of stuff, the same feel, the same type of longevity that you would get out of a garment that was directly printed with screen print with plastisol. So all the same thing, all the same thing. And again, later in the webinar, we're going to talk about the positives and the negatives and the uses of both products. So I'm not going to get into that here, but here we're just explaining what is a screen printed transfer. So in the picture there, you see we've got a screen. The blue color dark area around all that text, that is the emulsion, a light sensitive chemical that hardens so the ink doesn't flow through it. So when that person takes that squeegee and presses it against all that red ink, it's going to flow through all of those white open holes there. Okay, so let's go ahead and explain what a digital transfer is. So a digital transfer then, not screen printed, a digital transfer is when we take an actual printer, like the one you see in the picture here, not your mother's inkjet printer, that's for sure, but it's still a printer. You take a piece of vinyl, you print a piece of full color, photographic, super colorful artwork. You print that onto a roll of white vinyl, and then that white vinyl is cut out and weeded. So a digital transfer is when you're taking that full color artwork, you're printing it onto that white film. Then you take that white film, you cut around the artwork, because you don't want to apply a massive piece of white film to a garment, right? You cut around the artwork, and then that is what is applied to the garment. So now a digital transfer doesn't have to necessarily be vinyl, but this is the easiest way to explain, and this is the most common type of digital transfer, frankly, is using a printer and printing toner onto a piece of white vinyl. So Evelyn has a great question here that I want to address with everybody, and my helper actually answered it, but it's worth saying out loud so you can all hear. Evelyn has asked, so could I say screen printing if I use a screen printed transfer? The answer, Evelyn, is yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If you are using a screen printed transfer, you can tell your customer that you are giving them a screen printed product. It's not a lie. It's not misleading in any shape, form, or fashion. Because that's what we're doing is we're screen printing. Now, if you were to buy a digital transfer and call it screen printing, that would be incorrect. So you don't want to do that. But now Craig has asked a great follow-up question here, which one is more cost-effective? That, Craig, is the eternal question. Which one is more cost-effective between screen print and digital? So there's not a good, simple answer to that question, Craig, and that's a very common question we get asked at Transfer Express. The answer is it depends on your piece of artwork. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later in the webinar. But essentially, there are times when digital transfers are super cheap, super cost-effective. And there are times when digital transfers can be crazy expensive. It depends on the artwork and the size and the quantity. So at the end of the day, if you've got like a big, massive 11 by 11 design and it's only one or two colors, you don't want to do digital then, because digital is going to be priced by the square inch, and a big 11 by 11 design, that's going to be expensive, and that's when you would go for the screen print stuff. But again, we're going to talk about this as we go here, because there's a whole bunch of different circumstances. And Daniel's alluding to another one of those cases. Which one is better for 100% polyester? We're going to cover that in a second, Daniel, actually, because that's another good point. But in the meantime, in terms of defining the two different types of transfers, there's your definition. Screen printed transfers are using the traditional screen print process, plastisol ink, If you've ever seen a screen printer in your hometown function, maybe you've got a mom and pop screen print shop or sporting goods shop or something, we're doing the exact same thing that they're doing in terms of the chemicals and the burning screens just like they are. Screen printed transfers are screen printed. Digital is using some kind of full color toner process, similar to the printer sitting on your desk there at work. Obviously, a little bit more advanced perhaps, but the same concept. All right. So when to use screen printed transfers. Now we're going to cover a bunch of cases here, slide by slide. I've got a different reason on slide. So roll with me here, guys. So number one of the first reasons to use screen printed transfers is when you're applying to cotton, polyester, or 50/50 fabrics. So cotton, polyester, and 50/50, those are the three most standard types of garments out there on the planet. When you're doing a cotton, polyester, or a 50/50, every type of transfer we make goes on those different types of garments. Now, heat sensitive polyester, that's a different story. All right, we'll talk about the heat sensitive in just a second. Well, actually, Debbie kind of hit on that right there. When we apply a transfer to a 100% polyester garment, why is the shape of the press burned into the garment? What can we do about it? So, Debbie, the reason that happens is because some polyester, especially the performance wear, the moisture wicking polyester and the Under Armour type stuff, when you press those are heat sensitive. So what's happening is the heat press is actually melting some of the fibers. Now, not melting in the way that a candle melts, but melting in the way that it's singeing or scorching, basically. It's changing the texture and the makeup of the fabric, the polyester fibers. And unfortunately, it leaves that mark, and you can't do anything about it. It's not like you can unmelt those fibers. That's why you want to make sure if you are using a heat-sensitive polyester that you do state that, or that you're aware of that even. Now, what I'm saying here on this slide is that if you have a regular polyester, like a polyester dazzle or a polyester windbreaker, or any kind of regular polyester that doesn't have any sensitivity, then you can use a screen printed transfer on it, no problem. Now, the average screen printed transfer, the most common screen printed transfer, our goof proof, is applied at 365 degrees. So again, if it's heat sensitive, you wouldn't want to go with a screen printed transfer. You wouldn't, or at least not the goof proof. But when it's heat sensitive, that's when the digital product is more useful. But again, we'll get there in a second. So when to use screen printed transfers when you're applying on cotton, polyester, and 50/50 blends. Also, you should be using a screen printed transfer if you're only printing between 1 and 3 spot colors. Between 1 and 3 spot colors. So let's talk about what this means. A spot color is like when you take paint out of a paint can and paint it on a very specific spot. So a spot color is like a coloring book where you use the red crayon to color in one shape. That's spot coloring, as opposed to full color, which is when you do fading and shading and CMYK and gradients and all that kind of stuff. So when you're doing a spot color design between 1 and 3 colors, meaning you don't have any fading, you don't have any shading, it's just plain solid spot colors, that's what screen print is best at. When you start getting into the fading and the shading, that's when screen print isn't quite as versatile, unfortunately. Okay, so when you're doing between 1 and 3 spot colors, now here's the other thing. 1 to 3 spot colors. Once you get above 3 colors, once you get to that 4, 5, 6 color area, that's when you really don't want to do screen printed transfers. Now, screen printed transfers, the price is determined by the number of pieces and the number of colors. So if you've got like 4 or 5 colors, it's going to get really pricey. And the odds are at that point, when you hit that 4 color mark, odds are pretty good at that point it's going to be cheaper to do a digital transfer. Now, it's not a for sure written in stone thing, but it's a great starting point. So if you've got 1, 2, or 3 colors, it's probably going to be cheaper to go with the screen print. If you've got 4 or more, that's when you want to start thinking about the digital stuff. And you should use a screen printed transfer when you need 5 or more pieces of the same print. Now, the digital transfers, we'll talk about in a minute here, the quantity situation is much different. When you're doing a screen printed transfer, you get price breaks based on how many pieces you're ordering. So if you're ordering 5 pieces, you get one price break. If you're ordering 10, the price break goes down. If you're ordering 15, it goes down. 20, it goes down, so on and so forth. So when you need to order a large quantity of something, odds are the prices are going to be more cooperative with the screen print. Now, if you need a small quantity, a very tiny amount of something, screen print's not an option, unfortunately. The minimum is 5 sheets, 5 pieces. So if you need less than that, screen print's not even going to be an option for you. Now this is one of the big reasons. This is one of the big reasons to use screen print. Screen print allows you to gang sheet. So for those of you who are new to the industry, gang sheeting means taking that 11 and a quarter by 14 piece of paper and cramming as much stuff as you possibly can on it. You are paying for that piece of paper. Make it work for you, right? So the picture that I've got on my left-hand side here, this is an example of our online design tool. And this is an example of somebody who truly and honestly knew how to maximize their gang sheet. Look at all the stuff they got on there. All kinds of things, all kinds of things. And by using that one gang sheet, all of those images on that one gang sheet, you can see all the stuff they did to this track uniform on the right. That racer back there, you've got the stuff on the back, you've got stuff on the front, you've got stuff on the leg of the shorts. I don't know if you can, I don't know if you noticed there, but the stuff that is actually on the back actually goes all the way down the side because they fit so much stuff on that gang sheet, right? So gang sheets are a crazy, crazy useful part of doing screen print. Now, the reason this is a feature for screen printing is because digital, they're not printed on sheets of paper. Digital transfers are printed on rolls of material, so there's no such thing as a gang sheet. You can't get these types of benefits. Gang sheets is something that happens with screen print because of the size of the paper. Oh, okay. Tina's got a good question here. Tina is asking on the gang sheets. Where do you go? There you are. On the gang sheet example, how many colors would that be considered? So what you're looking at here, and I know it's kind of a smaller picture there, but if you're looking at the picture on the left there, the example from our online designer, that's 2 colors, white and navy blue. The blue background you see there is not considered one of the colors. The blue background, you can change the color background in Easy View without having to pay anything. So easy. The background color is just for reference. That's a 2 color transfer though. Oh, Evelyn, I love the gang sheets. Even if you use multicolor transfer, you can add designs that are different on the same. Yep, you nailed it there, Evelyn. Absolutely. And you'll notice if you look at the design that we chose to do the gang sheet, it is a 2 color, navy and white, but you'll notice that not each thing on the sheet uses both colors. We have some footprints that are just navy, some footprints that are just white, and then some designs that mix both of the colors together. The point is by that point, you're using navy, you're using white, use them however you choose to. Okay, so again, gang sheets, great reason to use screen printed transfers. And this is one of those things where you need to plan out what your project is. If your project is just a full size 11 by 11 design, okay, well, maybe gang sheets aren't such a big deal for you then. But if you're talking to a school and you're doing some kind of sports are honestly one of the big reasons to use gang sheet sports. If you're doing something for a sports team, if you're doing something for uh, the gymnastics team, for example, even if the gymnastics team is only ordering a full-size adult image, you're still paying for that sheet. So why not do your mentor high school gymnastics design? But then with the space left on the paper, why not do a small little 4x4 design that says mentor gymnastics rock and roll? And take that 4x4 design and press it onto a tote bag or a can koozie or a mouse pad. So gang sheets not only allow you to get more bang for your buck, but honestly, if you're smart, gang sheets are a great place for you to add little extras. And it doesn't cost you any extra either. You're not paying any extra for the gang sheet. The gang sheet happens, you're paying for the piece of paper. Oh, Casey's got a good question here. When you set up a sheet with many designs, are you able to place them closer together than the green space allows? So you know what, Casey? Honestly, Here's my advice. Remember, Casey, that at the end of the day, you're the one that's got to cut these suckers apart. We recommend about a half inch between images. That's probably being a little bit careful. We might be a little bit anal about that, but um, remember that you have to cut. And the other thing here, too, is you don't want to put things too close together. If we go back to high school physics, we remember that heat and pressure cause things like ink to expand, right? So if you put things too close together, there's just, especially if they're on top of each other, then you run the risk of ink actually expanding and touching and closing up and that kind of stuff. So you want to be careful about that. You don't want to put things too close together when you're devising your gang sheet. And keep in mind that our customer service reps can help you with that kind of stuff too. Michael's asking, this is another good screen printer transfer question. Michael's asking, how good is the registration on multicolor prints? The registration is going to be solid, Michael. Our goal is not to send you anything that is off registration. Our goal is to send you everything totally on registration. So if you get it, God forbid, if you do get something that's off registration, you call us up, you tell us, we replace it for you. But they should be totally on registration. Okay, let's continue on, shall we? Let's talk about why and when you should use digital transfers. So digital transfers, first of all, if you look at the example in my picture here, we've gone from a spot color design to a full color design. So now this isn't photographic. This is actually a man-made graphic of a fish in a fishing tournament. But the point is, look at the details. You can see water detail inside the text. You can see actual detail inside the fish. There's no way you could accurately do this with screen printing. There's no way you could accurately do that with screen printing. So that's where the digital comes into play. When you have artwork that is blended colors, fading and shading, in this case, using the CMYK color palette, right? All right, so quiz time. Who out there knows what CMYK stands for? Do 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 do. Who knows what CMYK stands for? Anybody? There we go, Stephen. Nailed it. Layla, Penny, yep, you guys got it. CMYK stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Although everyone, when we do the training here at Transfer Express, everyone goes, well, why is the K black? Back in the day, the K stood for the word key, actually, Key. But as time goes on, it key meant black, and it's kind of old terminology. There you go, Miguel got it. So cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. That's what CMYK stands for. When you see the term CMYK, that's talking about blended colors. They call it CMYK because the design you see on the screen was made using cyan, magenta, yellow, and black toner. The toners are mixed together in varying amounts to cause that full color effect. Again, not something you're going to be able to do with screen print. So when you've got something that is colorful, real life fading and shading and seamless fades. Again, there's some fading you can do with screen print, a 30 dots per inch fade in screen printing, but let me tell you, it's not going to get a lot of detail. This fish wouldn't look like a real fish. So when you're using actual photographs like you see here, you have to go with the digital transfers. All right, because screen print, we can't do photorealistic. If you send us a photo of your football team like this and you ask for screen print, we essentially have to take the photograph of these football players and we would actually have to draw them, like actually draw them. So they're not going to end up looking like real football players. They're going to end up looking more like caricatures or cartoons almost. So screen printing is not the way to go when you've got photograph artwork or even photographic. It doesn't even necessarily have to be an actual picture. If you've done some kind of full color graphic, some kind of we have art students here, for example, at Transfer Express. We have one of our graphic designers is an art student who likes to draw anime characters. When he makes a T-shirt, there's no way he could do screen print because anime style of artwork is bright and colorful and dynamic, lots of colors. So even though it's not a photograph, it's photorealistic. You would want to go with digital in that case. So now here's another reason. This is one of those little pesky things. When you're applying to nylon, lycra, or spandex, you have to go the digital route. So Transfer Express, we do have a stretchy transfer type called ElastiPrint that is screen printed, but the ElastiPrint does not have enough give and enough stretch to go on nylon, lycra, or spandex. The digital products have the give and the stretch necessary to go on these. The lycra and the spandex, at least. Now, nylon's a whole other topic. Nylon, we don't have a screen printed transfer that works on nylon. So at the end of the day, when you have a tricky garment type like nylon, lycra, or spandex, that's when you really do need to go the route of the digital stuff. When you're doing nylon, lycra, or spandex, those are the types of garments where the screen print is not going to be your friend. You want to go the direction of the digital transfers. Now, I'm also going to shamelessly plug, we have an ebook available at transferexpress.com. We have an ebook called The Ultimate Heat Printer's Guide to Fabric Types that may or may not have been written by the man running the webinar here. That will actually help you with this kind of stuff. The ebook will help you with what different garment types really are, what the words mean, what the fabrics are, and what you can put on them, actually. So another useful tool. All right, and another reason to use digital transfers, there you go, thanks, Mike. Another reason to use digital transfers is when you have less than 5 prints. So again, when you're doing screen print, the minimum is 5. You cannot get less than 5. So when you're doing only 2 or 3 pieces for somebody, especially if you've got a charity thing or a birthday thing or a Christmas thing or that kind of stuff, when you're doing those, and you're only doing like 1 or 2 or 3 pieces, that's when you really want to use the digital stuff. So Susan is asking a great question. Before we lost you, 90-10 poly spandex jerseys need to be a digital transfer, right? I would agree with you, Susan, yes. When you have that much spandex in something, now it's funny because 10 years ago, we would not have had this conversation. 10 years ago, you had 50-50s, you had cottons, and you had polyesters, and that was it. But this day and age, God help us, there are a ton of different combinations of fabrics and fibers and all sorts of stuff, right? So this day and age, when you've got jerseys that are mostly nylon with a splash of spandex, it can be difficult. So, okay, 90% polyester or 90% polyester and then 10% spandex. How much spandex is too much spandex? What if it was 95 and 5% spandex? At the end of the day, if you're not sure, if you've got a garment that you're not sure and there is stretchiness to it, don't risk it by using the ElastiPrint. Go with the digital. Gary asking about Tencel fabric. Absolutely, Tencel fabric is covered in the ebook, Gary. You can treat it just like cotton, as a matter of fact. Okay, all right. So both apply with a heat press. It's worth noting here that regardless of which transfer type we're talking about, I just want to be clear with everybody that all of these different transfer types that we're discussing, they're all applied with a heat press. Okay, whether it's a shirt press like you see on the left or a hat press like you see on the right, all of the different transfer types that we're discussing here today, they are applied with heat presses, right? So now, before anybody asks, if there's going to somebody in every webinar that says, "Well, can't we apply it with an iron? Can't we try to use an iron?" No, you cannot apply these transfers with an iron. You do have to have a heat press. And kudos to the people that try to make it work, but it doesn't work when you try to use an iron. You're not going to be able to press hard enough, and even if you could press hard enough, you're not going to be able to press long enough and consistently enough across the entire design. And I guarantee you, after doing that a couple times, your arms are going to be tired. So at the end of the day, you do not want to do the whole iron thing. It is not going to work. And plus, even if you were to tell us, "Hey, I did get it to work and it did come off the sheet," I can't promise it's going to stay on that garment. Again, because the heat press applies the time, the temperature, and the pressure necessary. So do not use an iron. Layla asks a good question here. What about the Easy Press that Cricut has out? Now, honestly, I have not used the Easy Press. I have heard people having mixed results with the Easy Press, to be honest with you. I've had some people that say they got it to work just fine, and some people that had issues with it. To be honest with you, if I had a small transfer that I was doing, I would try to use the Easy Press if I had just 1 or 2 pieces maybe. But if it was going to be anything more than one or two pieces and it was a big full size transfer, I wouldn't try to use the Easy Press on that. Again, the Easy Press's problem here is that it's relying on your upper body strength to provide the pounds per square inch to get the transfer to work. I know it's not on this slide, but I'm going to give you a quick physics lesson, everybody. The reason a heat press is necessary is because the heat from the press activates the adhesive, and then the pressure from the press causes the adhesive to want to stick to the garment. So the problem with things like the Easy Press is that you have to press hard, and then if you don't press hard enough, if you're not providing enough pressure, or even if you have a regular press but you've messed up your pressure setting, if there's not enough pressure, the transfer is not going to want to come off the paper, or worse yet, it might sort of come off the paper but not really soak into the fabric. So you're looking at it going, oh, hey, it peeled, it looks good, and then the first washing comes right off. So you just got to be careful if you're using a heat press whose pressure is wonky, or you're using an Easy Press. You just got to make sure that it's being forced in there enough. Okay. Very good question though. With the crafters that we have out there today, there's lots of, and see, Rhonda's actually got some input here. I'm actually pressing with an Easy Press with the goof-proof canvas bags, 12 seconds, cool pull. See, now the funny thing, Rhonda, is that's not quite the way the goof-proof transfer should be applied, but hey, if that's what's working for you, more power to you. Okay, so I have a useful tool that I want to talk to everybody about here real quick. If you have not played with our transfer selector tool, I suggest you check it out. Now, some people, if you're advanced enough, then this might not be something you really need. But if you're new to the industry and you're still figuring out this whole screen print and digital thing, and okay, I get what you're saying, Andy, but which is the best one really for my situation? The transfer selector tool can provide you with some feedback, and I believe actually we've got some application videos loaded in there too. But the idea is you go to the website that I've listed on the bottom of my slide here. You can also find the link. You can find the link for the transfer selector tool on our blog also, I believe, right? So the idea is the transfer selector tool, the main page of it, the front page of the selector tool looks like what you see on my slide here. The transfer selector tool is going to ask you a handful of questions, simple stuff, and it's going to tell you which transfer type you should use. Okay, and again, let's go ahead and I'll show you some pictures here just so you get an idea of what I'm talking about. So the first question that the transfer selector tool is going to ask you, and it shows you little pictures here too to go right along with it, is what fabric will your transfer be going on? That is always the first question. If you call up Transfer Express and you talk to one of our reps, this is going to be the first question they ask you. The first question is, what transfer or fabric type will your transfer be going on? So if you tell us nylon, then right off the bat, that's going to determine which transfer type you need to go with. But if you tell us something like cotton, well, everything we make goes on cotton, so cotton doesn't necessarily narrow it down. But we start with the fabric type because when you say something like nylon or lycra or spandex, that's going to change what will actually be the proper transfer type. So that's question number one. Once you've answered question number one, question number two is going to be, how would you like your artwork printed? This is talking about the colors. Again, and this is actually a great visual representation of the difference between spot color and full color. So full color is the option on the left there. You see the color wheel where all the colors blend into one another. That's what full color is all about. But the picture on the right is a photograph of some of our ink cans. So it's not blending color. It's when you want green, we go bust out the can of green ink. So much different. So the second question here is it asks you which color mode, which color do you want your artwork printed as? Full color or spot color? And lastly, depending on what you answer to that, and depending on what answers you give to these questions, there's some customized questions that it's going to ask you. So, for example, in this case, the next question it's asking me is, "Hey, do you want specialty ink or standard ink?" Now, in this case, I had chosen the screen print, I believe, and here it's giving me the option, "Hey, I need it puffy, glowy, glittery, or pearly," or I want regular standard ink. Now, we ask this because we have a whole bunch of specialty stuff. This is another reason why screen printed transfers are fantastic. If you own screen printing equipment and somebody walked into your shop and they wanted some kind of special pearly, glittery ink, you're going to buy a whole bucket of that stuff and never use it again. So again, this is why transfers are nice, because you can call us up and we can do 10 pieces of pearl pink for you for a cheerleading team, and you don't have to worry about a bucket of pearl pink ink sitting on your shelf for the rest of your natural life. um, so again, super useful tool here. So again, it's just asking me now which type of specialty ink do I want, or do I want the standard ink? Once you've answered all the questions and you've told it exactly what you're looking for, the transfer selector tool pops out which transfer type you should use. In this case, the answer it gave me was goof-proof. It looks like goof-proof screen printed transfers are the right choice for your project. And you notice that it gives me a video that I could click on to watch goof-proof application instructions. So again, the transfer selector tool, the whole goal is just to give you a quick way of figuring out, well, maybe what should I use? What should I think about doing? And then check the video out. After that, you can click the link below to take me to EasyView. I'm going to take a guess here that most everybody on here has used EasyView before. Is there anybody who has not used EasyView or online designer? Is there anybody who's totally green? No. We have a no. Oh, wow. Okay. Wow. A lot of you guys haven't totally. Wow. Okay. Hoorah. All right. Evelyn's going to do the commercial here for us. Easy View is awesome. Okay. So here's what I'm talking about, guys. I'm never sure how many people. Thanks, Evelyn. I'm never sure how many people in these webinars have used which features of our website. So I didn't realize so many of you hadn't used it before. So EasyView is our online design tool. So if you had used our transfer selector tool, like we've been looking at the past couple slides here, so you've answered the questions, it tells you should use GoofProof. You can click play to watch the GoofProof application video, and you say to yourself, okay, you know what? I can totally do this. I can do that. Now, how do I make my transfer? The EasyView online design tool is basically like Corel Draw Junior. It's a software that we have on our website that you can go to and you can make your design. You put your text together and your layout and your clip art and your design. You put everything together. You put in a quantity and some colors, and boom, you submit your order and we print your transfers for you. So the EasyView is a phenomenal tool, phenomenal tool. If you have not used EasyView, I suggest that everybody go hit transferexpress.com, click on the online designer, register if you haven't registered yet. It's totally free. It doesn't even ask you for a credit card or anything. You can register for a 30-day trial, and you can play with EasyView. It is a beautiful, beautiful, beautiful tool. Evelyn, thank you for the upshout there, Evelyn. So one of our favorite features of EasyView is that after you're done putting your design together, there's a view. If you click there's a button at the bottom of the page, Share and Preview, I believe is what the button is called. You can click that button to see what your design will look like on an actual T-shirt. How fantastic is that? um, and Sandra's asking a very valid question. What is the charge after the 30-day trial? So there is no charge after the 30-day trial. In order to retain access to EasyView, you simply have to place an order with Transfer Express every 6 months. So if you order every 6 months, you'll continue to retain your access to EasyView. If you lapse and you place an order and then 6 months go by and you don't order anything, we can reactivate your account for 48 hours, but then you just got to place an order within that 48 hours to retain your access. So no actual fee per se. Okay, so I don't normally like to get too far off topic, but Freddie is actually asking a great question here that I will go ahead and throw out an answer to. If you've begun to look at the different transfer types and you've begun to play with things, you'll notice that we have a couple screen printed transfer types that you may ask yourself, well, gosh, what are the differences? So there's two main types of screen printed transfers, goof proof and hot split. So goof proof is the old standby. Goof proof is most people's favorites are. If you're going to ask me, if you called up right now and got me on the phone and asked me this, I would tell you my favorite is goof proof. But my GM in the office next door to me, he would tell me his favorite is hot split. And Jessica, who sits outside my office, she's going to tell you her favorite's goof proof. Everyone's got a different favorite. The goof proof is a thicker transfer. It applies at 365 degrees for 5 seconds. But the goof proof, we call it goof proof because you can screw it up, you can mess up the time, the temperature, the pressure, and the goof proof still works. It's a beautiful product. But the hitch is it is just a smidge thicker. Now, we're not talking plasticky. We're not talking thick as heck. We're just saying that it's a little bit on the thicker side. And the reason for that is the thickness of the goof proof allows the white to be white and the yellows to be bright yellow and so on and so forth. Now, the hot split transfer, yeah, yes, Lala, I'm saying hot split. Split, not hot spit. Hot split. The hot split transfer is different because it's a thinner transfer. It doesn't have the powder adhesive that the goof proof has. It's a thin transfer that soaks into the fibers of the garment. So the hot split is going to be thinner and softer to the touch. But the hitch here is that if you're doing a white hot split transfer and you're pressing it onto a black shirt, that white ink is not going to soak into that black and look bright white. It'll still be white, but it's not going to be bright, bright white. Same thing with yellows and peach colors and those types of tones. So hot split, you don't want to do the super bright colors. Hot split conversely applies at 365 degrees for 8 to 10 seconds. Now, hot split is a great product, but hot split is not as forgiving as goof proof. So if you are brand spanking new to this, I would go with the goof proof. That's just my opinion because goof proof is super simple. Hot split, you got to nail the application time and temperature. If you're off, the hot split can be a little finicky. Now, if you're paying attention to your press, it's not a big deal, but just putting it out there. Oh man, okay, I love the hot split. Good deal. Um, with the poly blends, it can be too hot. You're totally right. And again, this is one of those eternal questions. If you go poll, I've got 46 customer service reps sitting outside my office here, and I guarantee you, if we polled them, it would probably be straight down the middle in terms of who likes what best. So goof proof is the best one. In my opinion, Fernando, it certainly is. Okay, so let's move on to the next helpful tool I've got for you here. The next helpful tool is our comparison chart. This is one of those things that we love about our marketing team. Our marketing folks here at Transfer Express, they sit and try to come up with things that make your lives easier. And that's just fantastic. The comparison chart, and again, it's a little bit small on my page here, but the link is provided there on the slide. So if you go to the comparison chart, it literally shows you each different transfer type, gives you a brief description of what each transfer type is, tells you what colors the transfer type comes in, and tells you what garment types each transfer type goes on. That is a lot of information on a small piece of paper. This comparison chart is a fantastic tool. This is one of those things that everybody should have, especially if you're new. If you're an old expert, then maybe this isn't necessarily something you need. But if you're somebody who's still new to the industry, then definitely you want this comparison chart. And even the terminology, it tends to be useful too, even if you just get a chance to see the terminology and get to use it. You know what I mean? It's a fantastic tool. So if you haven't seen the comparison chart, I think my buddy here, yep, there you go. He stuck the link there in the chat box. So check it out. Download it. How often you use it, I don't know, but it's nice to have the information available, right? And again, it's a lot of great info in a small space. So kudos to our fantastic marketing folks for putting together tools like that. What would we do without them, right? Hoo-ha! So a whole bunch of information, and we're clocking in right at 47 minutes. I think we can call it close to 45 minutes with our little network snafu that happened there. But a whole bunch of information. I hope everybody got something useful out of this. Um, I hope there was good info. And you know what? Casey is asking a good question here that I will answer because it's information we didn't include in this webinar. Casey is asking, is there a product available through Transfer Express that would work for hard substrates such as water bottles, sunglasses, and etc.? Yes, Casey, we do actually offer stickers Obviously, you're not going to want to stick a pair of sunglasses into a heat press. That would be bad, or a water bottle for that matter. But we do have non-apparel products at Transfer Express. Our goal is to be a one-stop shop for you. So if you do business with, let's say, the high school's baseball team, and you do the transfers for their jerseys, we want you to also be able to get the stickers for their helmets and the banner for their stadium and the wall graphic for their locker room. Did you know we do wall graphics? Kind of like Fatheads? Yes, we do. So anyway, so good question. Um, I see people asking about sublimation. I've seen that word a couple times. We do not do sublimation here at Transfer Express, no. Sublimation is a really cool process, but it's a little bit on the limiting side. I'm not going to bash it by any shape, form, or fashion because I think sublimation is cool. I am a science nerd, so when I see sublimation, I'm always like, oh my God, that's so neat. But sublimation's kind of limited because you have to do it on white polyester, and then you have to buy special printers for that, and there's extra equipment, and it can be very pricey. So sublimation not something that we get into here. But anyway, okay, so the next webinar is going to be a discussion on fabric types. Funny, we sort of talked about that a little bit, didn't we? So discussion on fabric types, Thursday, May 9th at 2 p.m. Be there or be square, right? So join us for that webinar. It will be a fantastic and informative webinar. In the meantime, if you have any questions, please do not hesitate to hit us up. Email us, info@transferexpress.com. That goes straight to our marketing folks who will answer your questions or disseminate your input as necessary. So if you have not checked out our blog, it is blog.transferexpress.com. We put out new information on a constant basis. Some of it's articles, some of it's graphics. We release new fonts every month. We release new clip arts every month. All of that is done on the blog. So if you have not been to our blog, check us out. Check us out. Good stuff. TransferExpress.com. Come find us at trade shows. We love to meet you guys face to face and connect with us on social media. And of course, call us. Our customer service team is eager to answer any of your questions, and we'll help you with any project you have. So, with all of that being said, my friends, it was my pleasure to be with you today. I apologize again for our strange little network snafu. In the meantime, though, have a fantastic rest of your Thursday, and we'll talk soon.